Hello. I've been eating microwave popcorn as a snack food for many years, and actually I always thought that typical microwave popcorn was about the best popcorn that I could get compared to movie theater popcorn, popped in a kettle, hot air, Jiffy Pop, anything you want. It was my favorite kind, and I ate a lot of it. And I was chatting with a few people recently about how good hot air poppers have become compared to the old ones that left a lot of kernels in the popcorn that you'd break your teeth on, or a lot of husks, or left the popcorn extremely dry or scorched it or whatever. And I started doing a search to see what was one of the highest rated hot air popcorns of the currently available models, and I found this Presto brand model, which they call their Orville Redenbacher fountain hot air popper. They actually have a couple models of this. One is in this shape with a bowl on it, and the other one is more of a boxy shape that I think has a higher capacity. I'm not going to recite model numbers here because they're unique of their type, and if you search you'll easily be able to tell which one is which from the pictures. Because I'm pretty pleased with this, I thought I would give an overview of it, and I also looked on YouTube to see if anybody else had already done so, and other than a couple of blatant commercials, I didn't see anybody actually giving an overview or anything in depth at all. So this is my attempt to cover that. This is what you get in the box. It consists of the bowl, which is what you would potentially eat your popcorn out of, and then the hot air base. The hot air base is in many ways like the old hot air poppers. It consists of a fan and a heating element and not much more. And it heats the air and blows it up through the popcorn, and that's how it gets the kernels heated. The differences come down to all the other stuff they put around it. Now this is a working popcorn popper. I haven't cleaned it up too much, so you're going to notice some little bits of chaff and water spots from washing and so on. And while I'm on the topic of washing, I'm going to mention that there's no part of this popper which is dishwater safe. You have to hand wash it. However, if you use it the way it's intended, you should rarely need to wash it at all. You don't cook popcorn in this with any kind of oil or seasoning or anything that's going to make a mess. The most you get is a little dust from the popcorn shaft, and then you probably would want to wash out your bowl after eating just because your hands are in there. And if you put any seasoning in the bowl after popping, you probably want to rinse that out real quick, but it's not a big job. So this is a very convenient unit to use. So going over the basics, the popcorn popper has a very short cord. I don't know what that is. It's probably 2.5 feet long, perhaps. Really just enough to go from your countertop to the nearest outlet if you've got a normal outlet disposition along your countertop. In my case, I'm doing this on a dining room table, and I have a power strip on the table so I can plug it into something. You might need a short extension cord if you're going to be putting this some other location. What makes this different from the older hot air popcorn poppers? One is that it does have the built-in bowl, which is kind of slick, but the main differences that I can see are that it has this lid on it. You can see how these lift up. These are perforated stainless steel lids, and two of them can flop all the way open, while the third one can only go up partially. And inside, I'm going to see if I can get it under better light. You can see that there's a I believe it's a stainless steel chamber in there with a grating at the bottom, and that's where the hot air comes up, and all the popping takes place right down in this metal portion of the hot air base. then the popped corn comes up in this vessel here, and when enough of it is accumulated, it pushes the lids open and the popcorn flows over into this area. And when you're popping it, it's got the bowl on top so the popcorn doesn't go everywhere. And then when you're done, you just flip it over and all the popcorn goes into the bowl and you're ready to go. I think one of the innovations here is that with the old poppers, the unpopped kernels were suspended in a column of hot air, and a lot of them tend to escape with the popped kernels and just blow out the top and into the bowl, so you'd end up with a lot of that stuff in there. With this approach, the unpopped kernels are cycling around down in the base here, and if they come up to the top, they just hit this set of screens and bounce back down inside. They can't escape. They don't have enough momentum to push these lids open. Once you have a head of popped kernels sitting on top, those push up and those form a barrier so that the unpopped ones, which are still cycling around in the airstream down in the bottom, they can't get out because there's these popped ones on top making a barrier. And then those finally, when they need to, they'll start pushing the top open and escaping, but there's still a head of popped kernels acting as a barrier. So you get essentially no chaff, no husks, no hulls, no unpopped kernels in the bowl area. They all stay inside here. And then when you're done, you invert the whole thing, remove the heating base, and here's the other innovation. The bottom of the popping bowl here has a screen on it which has got a pop-off lid. So as soon as you're done with the popping, you've got the lid on here, and you just sort of shake it a little bit, bounce it around a little bit, and any of the stuff you don't want to eat makes its way to the bottom, and then you just pop. Let's see if I can get my finger on there right. And they all end up in the lid here, and then you just dump them. So to illustrate this a little bit more, I'm going to make one batch and show you all the steps necessary. It's actually extremely easy. So I'm going to start out by preheating it. This is a recommended step. And you let this go for about 2 minutes, which I'll edit out here. While it's doing that, I'm going to talk about the popcorn I'm using. This is an Orville Redenbacher branded version of the Presto product, and they say very clearly in the instructions that you can use any brand of popcorn you want. There's nothing special about it. You don't have to use the Orville Redenbachers or look for a particular type. I just use this kind here. I bought it on Amazon since the local stores only had smaller containers. I wanted something that would last a while. But this is just your regular original Redenbacher's popcorn. And as with any popcorn, the fresher it is, the better. If you let it sit too long and get dried out, it may not pop as well. The other thing that you probably want is something to measure your popcorn with. And I've just got this handy half-cup measuring cup. They recommend 1/2 cup of unpopped corn per batch, or you can do less. After a certain point, if you put too little in there, it never builds enough of a head of popped kernels, and you might get more debris coming out. So they recommend at least a certain minimum amount, which is listed in the manual. But while this is still preheating, it's almost done. There's my half cup of corn. So once you've got it preheated, they recommend that you lift the one lid here. These can be a little bit warm at this point, so you really don't want to touch those. So they give you this little lever here, and you just pour your corn in. In actuality, most of the time I do this, I just flip these up anyway, even though they're kind of hot. They're not that hot, but for the video I decided to do it this way. So once that's in there, you put the bowl on top and you leave the lid off. That's very important, otherwise all the steam that's coming out will make things funky. You want to have the lid off and then pop it back in. I'm going to switch cameras now to show one that goes down inside a little better. Here's the air column of the hot air coming up and blowing through the popcorn. It's not very clear from the video, but what's actually happening in there is you've got a sort of a cup-shaped area with the unpopped kernels, and the hot air blows up through the middle and blows the bottom up to the top, and then the cooler ones cycle around to the bottom, get heated, blown up through the center, and the whole thing cycles. It's sort of a toroid configuration, which is pretty good. That keeps fairly even heating. You can get some idea of the level of noise this makes. It's noisy, but it's not like a blender or something. Maybe like a hand mixer or something like that in terms of noise. It's, if you do it late at night, it probably isn't going to wake up the kids or anything. So it's pretty reasonable. Okay, the first kernels have started to pop. And one thing I want to mention about this, during this popping stage, you're going to get little bits of snow-like chaff blowing out the top. This is just little bits of the white part of the popped corn that have detached from the main popped kernels, and they just float out, and you'll have them laying all around the popper on the countertop or table. It's not a lot of it, and I just take a paper towel and wipe it up. It's not a big mess, but you do have to consider that that will be there. So it's just about ready to come up through the top now. Now the doors are popping open. You can see some of the chaff blowing around up here. is always a bit of a trick to decide when to stop doing it. You're kind of listening for the interval of popping to become infrequent in the order of a couple seconds. So when this is done, you snap the lid back on. And this is the one complaint I have about this. It doesn't always want to snap on quite right. I'm not really sure what the trick is. There it goes. I think that's on. And then flip it upside down. Remove the heating base. All the popcorn falls out, and all you have is a little bit of bits and pieces left in there, which you don't really need to even clean out. You can just leave it for the next time. And I like to shake it like this with just a bit of a tilt so it cycles a bit. And hopefully all the stuff you don't want to eat has gone to the bottom at this point. And I tend to hold it over another bowl. And this is what you end up with, is a small number of unpopped kernels and some debris, husks and chaff and so on. And I tend to just sweep the table into this bowl. And then that goes in the trash. So, what do you end up with here? You got to put the bottom back on, or everything's going to escape. Just push it down on the table and that's taken care of. So it's kind of up to the line here. It doesn't go all the way to the top, but that's, I don't know, probably from a half cup of corn, it's probably nearly twice what you'd get from a typical bag of microwave popcorn. So it's a lot for snacking on. And again, you can do less if you want, probably down to about half of that. It's ready to go again. They say you can do 2 batches, one right after the other. If you do more than that, it's a good thing to let it cool off a bit before doing an additional batch, just so it doesn't overheat. So now, what's the popcorn like? Well, munching on it, it's popped just about as well as it would be from, you know, a kettle popper or a movie theater fountain type or microwave. And I wouldn't say it's drier, but it doesn't have any oil in it whatsoever to make additional moistness. And you tend to be used to that. The first few batches of this I had, I thought it was kind of dry, but then I realized it was just the absence of the oils or the butters that I was accustomed to. So what do you do about that? Part of the idea here is that you have something that takes almost nothing to do and is very inexpensive and very clean and no wiping up and washing and so on. And also it's healthier because you can eat a lot of this. It doesn't have much in the way of calories without all the butter and other stuff on it. Pardon me while I'm munching here. So the other part of this equation is to get some low-calorie or zero-calorie flavorings. And I saw recommended on Amazon this Kernel Seasons brand. See if I can get it in the camera reasonably well. The Kernel Seasons brand. I bought a sampler pack. It has all their flavors. It's got kettle corn, caramel corn, bacon and cheddar, cheesy jalapeno, nacho cheddar, plain old butter flavored, and white cheddar, and ranch. I haven't tried all of these yet. Some of them actually don't appeal to me. I hate kettle corn, so where's the kettle corn? This one. This one goes away. The bacon and cheddar wasn't too bad, but not one of my favorites. I really like the cheesy jalapeno. That's a keeper. The ranch seemed excessively bland to me. That's maybe a rainy day one. The caramel, I like caramel corn, but not when it's not real caramel corn, so that goes off to the side. The nacho cheddar was excellent. I really like that flavor. The butter was good. The white cheddar was also good. So I've got 4 that I have been using since I bought this. And the seasonings go a long way, but these again are samplers. They normally come in bigger containers. And you know, you just dust a little bit out. It's an extremely fine powder, and it has very few, let's see, typical serving, which is supposed to be 1/4 of a teaspoon. I think you're going to have more than that in a bowl of popcorn like this, but it's saying 2 calories for that, so I don't know, maybe 8 to 12 calories in a reasonable sized bowl. Pretty close to nothing. Everything else is 0 essentially, although it does have some salt in it, of course. It's predominantly salt. And these again are primarily something you just dust on there. If you're looking for saturated flavor, then you're probably better off going ahead and getting yourself a flavored oil or something to spray on there after it's popped. And it's important to point out that you don't put any seasonings or any oil or any butter in the popper itself. That'll ruin it and make a mess and probably start a fire. Anything you do has to be put on after it's in the bowl. If you want to keep this clean, you can dump it into another bowl and then season it there. I tend to do it just right in here, and then when I'm done, just give it a quick rinse. It doesn't even really need soap since there's nothing oily sticking to it. And I've also found that they recommend with this, and also with the popper, that if you are going to use a seasoning like this, that you kind of mist it with like, I guess, Pam. They don't actually mention a brand, but a vegetable oil based non-stick cooking spray. And so you can kind of mist the popcorn with that and then apply these fine flavoring powders, and the mist of oil will help it stick a lot better. I haven't done that just because it adds mess. I would rather keep one of these by my side when I'm watching a movie or whatever I'm doing. Dust a little area, eat it. When I notice that the flavoring is gone, just dust a little bit more and hit it a few times instead of doing it all at once. That way I'm not over applying it, and it seems to work great. Overall, I'm very happy with this product. Again, the only real complaint I had was that I thought sometimes it was a little hard to get this cover snapped on and snapped off. And that's mostly not due to how hard it is to snap on, but because the ball is kind of springy. It's not super stiff. And when you're trying to push it on or off, what happens is the force you're using tends to spring the bowl just as much as it pops the lid on or off. And that makes it just a little more difficult, but it's not really a big deal. It's just a very slight annoyance. If they ever change anything on this, I'd say make the plastic half again as thick or something. But otherwise, I think a very good product, reasonably priced, very effective, and I think it solves the problems that the older hot air popcorn poppers had. So I hope this overview has been useful to you. I'm going to go eat a bowl of popcorn.